All right, so day number 14 is now in the books. I'm finishing with a green result with a 2.86% ROE. However, this is a day that I have pretty mixed feelings about. It's one that came very close to closing $80 into the red. Instead, I'm finishing $60 or $65 in the green. And the mixed feelings come from two competing facts. Number one is that I had really good ideas today. My brain was like on point in terms of predicting moves before they happened, recognizing the signs of upcoming moves, and a lot of my ideas. If I had traded perfectly on my ideas, this would have been a really good day. And the problem was that my execution was very bad. I definitely hesitated a couple times on my first trade. I got a little bit greedy. All three of my trades today were on BIMI. All three results were green on the gross side, although the second one was only 13 cents. I'll show you all that in a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what I did on Friday and why I didn't take any trades on Friday and how that affected my mood coming into today. So as I give you an overview of my trade log with the three trades from today highlighted at the bottom, I want to talk about the attitude I woke up with on Friday, because even though I had made myself feel quite a bit better by making the recap on the 13th, where I talked about how I intended to rebound from the horrible day I had on Thursday of last week, I woke up on Friday thinking that, well, number one, it's Friday. That's typically not the hottest momentum day. Number two, the momentum that we'd seen on SES, BIMI, and a couple of other sympathy names, that momentum wasn't quite as present as it had been on previous days. And I thought it's pretty unlikely for there to be a really strong runner on Friday. And even if there was, I felt like punishing myself a little bit. I felt like I needed to go back to the books and study setups and spend some time reviewing my data. And it seemed like the safer day to just take 3 days to calm down from that loss. And, worst case scenario is I'm going to maybe miss a couple of runners, but in the bigger picture of the situation, we're still only October. Well, we're in the middle of October. And the momentum, if this is real momentum in the market, it's going to last for several months. So I'm going to have plenty of opportunities to make this money back. Even though that isn't really my attitude, it's not about making it back. The point is that I made a mistake and I don't have to correct it the next day. I can wait for future opportunities to do that. And so what I did instead is I still watched the market. I locked my simulator before the bell, and I still opened up the Velocity chat room, and I actually had a really good time. I was just kind of sitting on the sidelines, sitting on my hands and not taking any trades at all, whether in my simulator or in my practice account. And instead just followed the Velocity stream and got a kick out of a really funny situation that turned out. Now, they did a giveaway on Friday where Nick, the host of the channel, whenever he has a winning trade, one of the things I really like about Velocity is that they give back to the community. And Nick, whenever he has a winning trade or a big day or a big week or whatever it is, he tends to give away stuff, sometimes merchandise or money or some sort of giveaway. And so somebody in the chat room had won themselves a hoodie, a Velocity Trading hoodie. And now this time it wasn't me. I didn't get to get away with the free merch. But as soon as the winner was declared, I decided to, put out a bid order of $37. I offered to, buy the shirt buy the hoodie off the winner for $37 because Nick had advertised its cost value at 35. And so I thought, hey man, if you want to scalp this hoodie and make a couple bucks, like I'll buy it off you and I'll add it to the t-shirt I have coming to me. And as soon after I made that offer, several other people started getting in on it and outbidding me. And all of a sudden we had a bidding war for this hoodie that had been won. And it turned out to be really funny. People just came out of nowhere and started adding to the joke, calling out like, hey, does the hoodie have news out? And somebody said they were going to short it, and then Nick said, no, you can't short it. It's on SSR. And it was just a really amusing moment that really boosted my spirits. And so that's the happy attitude that I took into the weekend to study all my setups, go back over my data. And I feel that really had a decent effect on how I was able to, recover from this emotional loss on day number 13 on Thursday. And, the weekend wasn't just about studying. Yes, I did do that. I did look back at the setups and all that stuff. But it was also about discipline and just sharpening up the number of things around me that have evidence of disorder. And so I spent a lot of my weekend cleaning my house, doing laundry, just performing, fairly mundane tasks, but upkeep tasks. Because if the question I always have to ask myself for discipline, and this is largely what my pre-market discipline checklist is based on, is have I done my chores today? Are there dishes in my sink that need washing? Are there too many clothes in my laundry basket? Is my room tidy? Is my desk tidy? Is my desktop clean? And things like that. So the attitude I carried into, thanks to that fun time in the chat room on Friday, I feel really helped me have a very productive weekend. And I did almost everything that I had listed for myself over the weekend. Now, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about my first two trades. I'd much rather get to the third, which was really the most important one. But on my first trade, I almost found myself in a really great situation. I got in for the break of a seller at 680, and on the next 1 minute candle after I entered, a big volume spike came in and pushed the stock into a pre-halt phase at 734. And that's when I was thinking, yes, this is amazing. This is exactly what I want. And I was just about to add into that halt when I saw that there weren't as many bid orders stacking as I would have expected on a successful halt. And so I hesitated for maybe a couple of seconds to see if they developed, and they did not. And this ended up being a false halt, which, as you'll know if if you watch my previous video or the one before it, you'll know that false halts tend to result in a very quick reversal. And that's exactly what happened. Dipped down to 683 and then came back up. And there were some resistance stacked up at 750 that I did not like. And I started trying to exit this trade at 745. And I tried several more times on the way back down and got a little bit greedy. I kept trying to get better fills for myself. And long story short, this ended up retracing the entire move, nearly triggered my stop, and then moved back up. And once it started bouncing again off 714, I decided to just exit and reevaluate later. A few minutes later, you can see that I did get that resolution, and it did pull back again, but it resolved out of that pullback into a really great squeeze that once again led to a pre-halt phase, which failed. And once that failed, it came back down, and as you can see by how random my entries and exits were, this was a pretty sloppy trade. My entries were high, but given the volume, I don't think they were incorrect. I think I reacted pretty well to the tape in the level 2. I just never got the resolution. The continuation didn't come in, and looking like it was a situation that was just going to keep bouncing off $8, I decided to take some off the table up here to reduce the risk if this should fail, and then I took the rest off down here in the 740s as it broke down through my primary stop. Now, on my third and final BIMI trade, something fairly interesting happened to me, which is becoming a recurring problem. But I had internet trouble. All of a sudden, the tape started slowing down, the level 2 wasn't refreshing as quickly, and as you know if you've watched recent recaps, I have no patience for that kind of thing anymore. I mean, I had some internet problems on my very first trade in this account. That led to a huge loss. And then just a few days ago, last week, I had that weird order issue that I haven't seen since, but that was fixed by me restarting my computer. And so as soon as I had internet problems, which was around this area here, you can see my entry, by the way, is back here at 727. This turned out to be a false breakout. But in any case, I had internet problems during this consolidation. And instead of waiting to see if it got better, I just said, nope, I'm leaving this. And I left a live stop order in the market and then restarted my computer. And that took about maybe 4 minutes or so to restart. And by the time I came back on, I had found this. And at that point, I thought, damn it, like I've already passed my stop. This is not going well. It's resolving to the downside. And I found a bunch of reasons not to like this. And at first, the way I was viewing this situation was, let's just get the best exit we can and try to get out of this as cleanly as possible. Because I had let this drop far past my stop. During the restart, I had missed my opportunity to stop, and my live order, once again, just like it did the other day, did not trigger. I don't know why this keeps happening, but live stop orders, and I'm putting them at the market too, they're not triggering for whatever reason. And so I found myself down on this a lot more than I wanted to be. and that kind of bummed me out. On the other hand, if you look down here on the 5-minute chart, you'll see that all of these candles are bottoming tails. That to me reinforced the pattern that I had been noticing all day on this stock, which was that every dip was followed by a pretty decent surge of buying. There were low volume drops and there were high volume moves back up. And you can see that earlier in the day too, on this candle here at 940. It's the same thing. There was a drop down and then it got bought back up, and then that created a surge to the upside. And so what I ended up doing on this, at first I was thinking, oh damn, I'm down a bunch. I have possibly $80 of unrealized on this stock, and that's more than I wanted to. And what I ended up doing was I ignored my P&L, which I never should have been paying attention to in the first place. But in any case, following this drop down, I was thinking, well, how would I treat this situation if I didn't already have a position open? I tried to ask myself, how would I be looking at this if I had yet to enter the stock? And what I had noticed was a bit of a bottom developing here in the 650s, and that we were channeling in a way that based on mostly the tape in the level 2, which isn't visible on the charts, but based on most of those two things, I thought that this is a really good candidate for a squeeze back up. And even though we were approaching the lunch hour, which is typically pretty slow, I felt like my read on the situation was pretty strong. And this is when I started thinking about averaging down. So as you can see on the 1-minute chart here, my entries and exits are shown. I did take a little bit of an insurance sell right here at 11:10 and 40 seconds, where I ditched half of my position at 670. And the reason for that, I'm going to be thinking about this for a while, whether or not I think this is correct, because as you can see, I exited, and then on the same candle, I added shares back. And that's the thing I'm going to be analyzing, but I won't get too deeply into that. Basically, I took some off the table to avoid a bigger loss if it were to drop back down below the lows, and it didn't. It ended up squeezing the other way, and that's when I added the shares back. Once I saw a sign of strength, I thought, okay, great, let's do this. And I added the shares back, and a couple of minutes later at 7:05, I added once again. And pretty much as soon as I took this second add-on right here at 11:12, I kind of regretted it. I thought this was a little bit aggressive. I thought that I shouldn't have been this aggressive on a situation where I had already had my initial entry go against me so dramatically, and that my attitude on this should probably be one of recovering from a loss rather than looking for the win. And I'm still on the fence as to whether or not this was correct, but once again, I won't get too deeply into that. Long story short, this came back down to what I had adjusted my primary stop to at the previous resistance level. It bounced to the penny off that level and then started ripping up. And the first huge pop that we did get was right here at 11:25. And this one was so fast and so impossible to take advantage of that I wasn't able to get an exit even if I wanted one, which I didn't necessarily want. This was a case where the ask price skyrocketed up to 50 in a matter of maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but the bids did not follow, and that's why I wasn't able to get filled. And this is where I'll enter a note about DAS Trader that you can only ever get filled on the bid. There is no such thing as getting filled on the ask. And that's really important here because that's a lot worse than a normal broker would give you. And that to me is a positive. As I've mentioned in the past, I always prefer to learn in the hardest way possible. I think it's better to learn the hard way so that when you get into the more easy situation in the real world, everything will be more smooth for you. And another reflection of that, which I have mentioned in the past, is the commissions that I'm simulating right now. They're some of the highest in the business. And this once again reflects that I think it's a good thing. But in any case, this was the reason that I wasn't able to get filled on this spike, and again on this spike up to 760. Now you can see I took a little bit, I started realizing right here that, well, maybe I should insure myself against a drop back down. I should protect against making this a red trade for the second time. And so I took half my position off, which was 141 shares at 730. And once again, following that exit, we did get this spike, and I managed to get some of it off at 745, which was a quarter of my initial position. And I reset my stop at that time to 725. In between 730 and 725, there were quite a bit of bid offers stacked up. And I decided to just, after the roller coaster day that I had, I decided let's just play this safe. Let's, move up my stop to 725 and make sure that this is going to be a green trade. And after the second bounce off 760, which once again was pretty fast mover, and I wasn't able to get filled there either, I ended up stopping out a little bit early at 730, thinking that the tape was telling me that 725 is going to break and that most of this move is probably going to get retraced, and that the possibility of the halt that I was initially looking for when I added back here was no longer really looking as if it was going to be a realistic scenario. And if I fast forward the chart here, you'll see that it did break below 725, but it did recover from that too. And most of this area tended to be choppy. So basically my final exit at 732, I guess I technically saved myself like 7 or 8 pennies on that last piece at 71 shares. And all this added up gave me, a $65 net P&L. And by this point in the day, I was pretty satisfied with that. I felt like I traded very sloppily. And even though, like I said in the beginning, my ideas within each trade or leading up to each trade were really solid, my executions, which you can see based on the charts, the exits that I have and all this, my execution was really terrible. And I wasn't really happy with that. And I felt like I should probably just take this win, book some green, give myself, some positive results to be confident about, and then carry that confidence into what I hope to be a better day tomorrow. So I think over the weekend and analyzing my stats, going over a lot of setups and just watching my previous recaps, I watched all of them multiple times. And I think the pattern that emerges the most is the number of mistakes that I'm making and the fact that I'm also green while making those mistakes. I have made some very devastating decisions. I've undercapitalized on my winners. I've exceeded my stops a lot of times, and I've lost more money than I needed to on my losers. And despite all that, and despite having accuracy of less than 57%, I'm still up, close to 24% in the account, not counting account fees. And I think that's really a good sign, because in the past, in my most recent live account, that hasn't been the case. It's been the case that I get swamped by all kinds of fees and commissions and stuff. And in this account so far, after 44 trades, my average position size is only 293 shares, which means that I am on average overpaying for commissions. And if we look down here on the commissions per share, this is more than twice what the minimum amount of commissions are on each transaction. So this means my share size is way too low right now. And even though I haven't really found a lot of spots where I could really boost it up and get aggressive, I think that once that time happens and that once I build enough confidence to be able to take larger size, that my results are going to explode on a really big scale. And so all that adds up to I just need to plug leaks. I just need to evaluate the things I'm doing wrong and look to improve them. And even in making these recaps and rewatching them, I've noticed that I repeat a lot of the mistakes that I'm trying to fix. And that in itself is a runaway problem. And so by trying to focus on just getting the good entries and having tight stops, scaling into positions, being safe, taking really low risk entries, I think that once I really get in tune with these types of strategies again, I think that my results are going to really get a solid boost. And so I'm looking forward to producing those results. And my attitude going forward is one of positivity. There's no doubt about that.